All right. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Free Friday coaching call. I can see people streaming in, dialing in from all over the place, which is incredible. Just a quick context for those of you that may be joining us for the first time. We do this call the first and third Fridays of each month, and it has been going for, years now. Previously, it was Rick's Free Friday coaching call, and it was set up because for the 43 years that he was in real estate, traveling, speaking, coaching, mentoring, doing all the things that made him incredible and a key agent and an influencer in the industry, he wanted to create a space to help all of his friends continue to work on mindset and skill set when it came to their businesses. And so we've kept this call going since his passing in October of 2023. And it's shifted a bit because now we're bringing in more and more people who have really carved out a niche and space and created incredible results and are here to contribute back into the community that we have here and be a resource to level up and keep stepping up in this idea of skill set and mindset. So, the person that we have on the call today is somebody that I did not know up until just a handful of years ago. However, my experience of him, just for a little bit of background, he's been in the industry over 20 years, based out of the San Diego area, went in production, had his team, they were consistently doing over 40 million a year. And so knows how to sell real estate. And through the course, and what happens for a lot of people in their real estate careers, businesses, and lives, people that do it at a high level naturally move into leadership in the space of real estate. And so he currently leads an organization called the Agent Collective, which is over 1,500 agents around the US and into some other countries around the world. He's a key speaker, trainer, and coach. But I love about him on a personal level is that he is dedicated to his family. We have a lot of leadership calls that we do, and he's like, "Hey, I won't be on that one because I'm with my kids." And so he knows what's important, and that family comes first. And as much as he loves pouring into agents and businesses, he's got a great set of priorities from my perspective. At the same time, he's got a servant's heart, and he's a totally open book. He's a team player, and he is very committed to anyone that is in his circle, his sphere, his orbit, rising with him. So, Jesse Zagorsky, so happy to have you on the call this morning. Thank you for being with us. And before we jump into the two topics that I know are going to be incredible for all of our listeners today, would love for everybody that doesn't know you to get to know you a little bit, and understand what was it that you were doing before real estate and why did you choose this industry? Because the majority of people we find are coming from other industries into real estate. Very few, come right out of high school or college and jump right into it. So what were you doing before?
Yeah, I never wanted to be a real estate agent. I wanted to be a rock star. That was literally I was graduated college, have a degree in economics, didn't really use it. I ended up working at MTV. I was playing in a band, living in New York City, and my mom and my dad had always been entrepreneurs. They sold a business, and my mom was like, "I'm gonna get my real estate license." And so she did it for like a year back at the beginning of internet leads at the early 2000s, and she's like, "Jess, I think you'd like being an agent." I'm like, "I don't know. I just want to be a rock. I just want to play guitar and be a rock star, right?" So I got my real estate license and kind of part time. I went back and got a second education and learned all about lead generation, lead conversion, and got obsessed. But I never thought 20 years later. I mean, I got my license in 2003. So 21 years later, I never thought I'd be leading a coaching call, talking about real estate, something I'm still doing. But I got obsessed, and so I took this idea of creativity for music and always applied it into the sense of business. And I think it's what's kept this interesting over these years is because you can take a creative sense and apply it to real estate business.
I love that. And I love that I asked you that question because I did not know that about you.
There you go.
And when you were sharing it, it made me think of that little, yeah, look, really, there's the guitar. It
I
made
have
me
guitars
think,
next to me everywhere I go still.
it made me think of that saying, what you resist persists, what you resist controls you. So that strong resistance for becoming a real estate agent landed you in the industry of real estate. That's exciting. And you found a
Yeah,
way to take your creativity and make it work, and you've stayed here all these years.
I did.
So so talk
But
about,
can
yeah,
I
go
can I
ahead.
put one thing to add on to that story, Casey? So
Yeah.
because I never wanted to be an agent, my goal from my early 20s was always to figure out how did I make as much money as possible in as short as time as possible. because that was again, I was always been all about leverage, not because I didn't want to work, but because there was other things I wanted to do. So that ties
Mhm.
into today's topic because I've always been obsessed with this idea and studying different trainers and speakers and thinkers of like how do you create leverage in your business?
I love that. And I think that for everybody that's on the call today, there's always, if you can look at your life and you look back, it's easy to connect the dots when you look back to see where you are in present time today. It's like, oh, this led to that. And there will be, themes that run through. I think that's the really cool thing from a leadership perspective is that everybody's got leadership and they've got influence, and everybody has a very unique journey and story in their career path and in their business life that's led them, to today, right? So for you would think like, oh my goodness, there couldn't be anything less creative than real estate. But yes, of course, MTV and being a rock star, that's tons of creativity over there. And then wow, we bridge the gap in those two things. And now it goes into another layer of business and life, which is okay, I love the creativity aspect. And how am I going to fund that now? It's going to be by getting leverage and being as productive as I can so that I manage and control the time that I have and that I'm living the life I want to live and have a business that supports that. So I know that's one of the topics that we're going to jump in today. Before we jump into those two topics, though, what would you say for somebody that is to someone right now that's brand new in the industry and someone that is seasoned in the industry on this call to kind of prepare their minds and hearts for what we are going to discuss?
All right, if you are brand new to the industry, I would tell you that 2025, the opportunity is wide open for real estate agents. And the concepts we're going to talk about today are going to show you how you can kind of leverage some of that opportunity because the basics in real estate, now this will tie in anyone who's more experienced on the call, the basics in real estate have been the same for my entire career. I'm sure for longer than my entire career, probably since real estate existed. Sales is sales. You have lead generation, lead conversion, right? And then you have servicing your actual clients. Then you've got ways to generate repeat referrals. But if you take those different pillars, you're going to see how you can apply your own spin to it. And as we talk about the ways to leverage and productivity hacks, whether you're new or experienced, right? The reason you want to pay attention is because there's probably other things you like to do in life besides selling houses. And if we can get the things in order that help you to sell more houses in less time, then it lets you go do the things you really love, whether you're new or experienced. How's that,
I
Casey?
love that. I love it. I love it. So where do you want to start? Do you want to start with friend working or productivity? I say we start with friend working. What do you
I,
think?
I was, I was gonna say, I was saying, man, I probably picked like 6 hours worth of material. I got a bunch of slides, keep them on a monitor. So we'll start wherever you want to start. We're gonna get through whatever this conversation goes, and it's gonna be impactful for whoever needs to hear it. I'm sure we'll say the right stuff. So wherever you want to start, you tell me. We'll start there.
Let's split it up. Let's do a little half and half. We'll start half on the friend working, and because relationships, you've got to have the relationships before you have the business because business moves at the speed of trust. And if you've got the relationships, then the productivity and efficiencies and leverage of how you now service those relationships in more effective times and systems becomes the second part. I don't know. That's just how my brain works. It's like the
I,
chicken and the
I'm
egg,
with
though.
you. I love it. I love it. So some I see a few friendly faces here. Some of you might have heard some of these stories, but maybe not, because I don't tell these stories very often, even to the people that are end up on a lot of Zooms with me. So I'm going to give you a little context to my career and how this idea of friend working came about. So friend working, it's the way I say it is like stop networking, start friend working. And you can use this the way I did with certain accounts or people where like you can make a contact in real estate and that person has potential to send you a lot of business, right? Sometimes we meet a buyer or seller and it's like one deal or maybe two deals. I was using this with a category of people I'll explain where I would meet someone and one contact gave me 60 listings in a single year, right? Another person gave me 30 listings in a single year. So you can use it to develop places like that. But even if you're just working in your general real estate business with your sphere, with past clients, what I'm going to teach you in terms of friend working and relationship building, it really is applicable to someone who could send you one referral. Or maybe you have certain people in your database you've identified as larger referrers. This would be great stuff to apply to those people as well. Does that make sense, Casey?
It makes perfect sense.
Okay. And for most agents, by the way, if you're newer, most agents do the first couple deals from people they already know, from their sphere. And if you're experienced, what I've been hearing as a theme that's come up over and over again on masterminds, because we do a lot of masterminds every week and every month, what's working right now. I think you can still purchase leads, nothing wrong with those. But in terms of where a lot of agents have shifted their business is back to higher margin, right? leads that you didn't purchase them. They were relationships you had through past client events, whatever it might be. This will work really well for those of you that are looking to, how do I get some leads that the conversion rate's higher and the cost isn't so great? Does that make sense? Okay.
It does. And that's such an interesting thing. I mean, Rick would always say, it should cost you no money to go get business. It's relationships. He was a very much of a stickler about like all the business that you have is in the palm of your hands if you're willing to open up your mouth and pick up the phone.
So I'm gonna do my best to channel my inner Rick today then, because I love that we can continue that theme. So and keep in mind when I had a big team, I had like 21 agents on my team a few years ago. At one point, I had a $20,000 a month spend on Realtor.com. I had to spend on Zillow. Like I've bought a lot of leads and had a big lead engine, and I'm still saying there's nothing wrong with that, but we're focusing on the opposite. These are zero to very low cost things that you can do. So I learned these skills back when I was selling bank-owned homes. Is anyone old enough to remember the foreclosure crisis back in 2009, 10, 11? And maybe real estate, you guys remember when we had all those foreclosures? Prices were like, okay. So I had a coach back then who was like, Jesse, you should start doing REOs. And I was like, how do you spell that? Like, well, huh? I don't even like, I don't know what that is, right? Like, so, oh, and so I dove in and started learning about it, and I quickly realized that in the world of REOs, it was not about how good you were. Everyone was good. It was about who you knew and how you developed that relationship. And I realized there's not a lot of REOs out there today. So this is not a pitch for REOs. I don't think they're coming back in a big way. We can talk separately about that. But the same concepts that I applied in my business, some of them I did naturally, some of them I learned, but then I was able to learn from some people, and I'll give you guys, this is like, we could talk for hours about this, but I got it down to about 15 minutes to give you the basics of what you need. Sound good?
Sounds
Okay.
great.
So there's a book that I'm pulling a lot of this from that I'd love to give credit where credit is due. Has anyone ever read a book called The Like Switch by Jack Schaefer?
No, I have not.
Fantastic. This is one of my favorite sales books of all times. I literally used to keep boxes of these in my office. I would give them to any agent on my team. I would require them to read it, any agent who stopped by. It is, if you read the little headline here, an ex-FBI agent's guide to influencing, attracting, and winning people over. It's not a book for real estate agents specifically, but it is a fantastic book that agents can apply. So I want to do a little, those of you who are on camera, by the way, thank you for being on camera. If you can turn your camera on, turn it on. Love to see you so we can, Amberly, I saw you wave. Hi. All right. Like turn your camera on if you can. If you're multitasking, no pressure. All right, if you can turn your camera on, I want to do a little like raise a hands thing. So how many of you on a scale of 1 to 10, if 1 is like you are you can't talk to anybody. You just feel really awkward. You can't make friends. You can't build relationships. And 10 is you are a social butterfly. We can drop you anywhere and you'll make friends with everybody in the room. Okay. How many of you are like 1, 2, or 3? Raise your hand. You're like, I'm kind of 1, 2, 3. Okay. Andy's already given me, he's a 6. How many of you are like, I'm like a 4 to like a 6 or 7, 4 to 6? Raise your hand. How many of you are like, I'm a 7, 8, or 9, or like a 10? Raise your hand. Like, I'm pretty darn good at this. All right, cool. So here's what this book's going to do for you, depending on where you're at. It's not going to take you, like Debbie just said, she's a 2. It's not going to take you from a 2 and make you a 10. Okay. It's going to take you from a 2 and make you solid like 6 or 7. Build your confidence. If you're already a 7, 8, or 9, which a lot of you are, it's going to make you a 10. Does that make sense? This guy was able to reverse engineer in very simple format the things you can do to build rapport. And he was literally recruiting spies for people to turn against their home country and spy for the US. You got to build a heck of a lot of rapport, right? Very quickly in order to be able to do that. All right, Andy says, add the name of the book to the chat. If you scroll up, it is there. It is The Like Switch by Jack Schaefer. The Like Switch by Jack Schaefer. So the main concept of this book, because there's a lot of stuff in there, but the main concept of this book is something called the friendship formula. And by the way, if we have anyone who's single here, this works as well for any sort of relationship. Friendships, dating, whatever. If you're married, you could use this to even go deeper with your significant other. However it is, right? But we're going to keep this in the context of sales. Is that good, Casey?
That's good. I will work with my dog.
All right, cool. So I want to see if this makes sense. And I'm talking to Casey, but we're talking to everybody. This is the basic friendship formula. Relationships, and this is any relationship, right? Could be a buyer or a seller, somebody could refer you business, could be an agent you want to attract, whatever it is. Relationships equal frequency times proximity times duration times intensity. Frequency times proximity times duration times intensity. Okay. And notice, by the way, they're not adding. In his formula, it's actually multiplying because each one builds on top of each other. It's like, it's not addition, it's multiplication. Now I'm going to break down what each of these are. We're going to ask questions and we're going to see. And I can do this literally in about 10 minutes and then we can ask some questions. We'll change gears. You guys ready for this? All right. So, frequency. This one's really straightforward. It's how often are you seeing people? Like, when I did all this bank-owned business, while like I would literally go get on a plane and I would visit every month one of my clients, right? You can use social media to dial frequency up. What do I mean by that? It's really hard these days for time and money. You're not gonna like, you guys know what pop buys are? Right? You ever heard of the term pop buys? That like pop buys, that's increasing frequency, but there's only so many pop buys you can do, right? So with social media, when you post and you have relevant things or you're commenting on people's stuff, you're increasing the frequency very easily and for almost no cost that you're showing up in their feed or you're showing up in their brain. Does that make sense? These days in 2025, the marketer that wins is the one that shows up most often. It's not the one with the best message. It's not the one, it's literally the one that shows up most often. So if there is someone that you want to develop a relationship with, here's a really important question. Like, should you just start showing up all the time? Is that awkward? Is it weird? Casey, what do you think? If you don't know someone that well and you start showing up all the time, is that awkward? Is that weird?
Depends on if they're cute. I'm kidding. Oh, we're not talking about dating. We're talking about business. Yes, that could be very awkward, a little much.
Okay, so here's my rule number one. This is subjective, but like, be a cool person. Whatever that means to you, you're going to use your judgment. Context is important. We're not going to be creepy. Like if you pick someone that you're like, this person's the most influential person in my town, right? And I'm going to start just like commenting on all of their posts. I'm going to start all like, it's who is this person? Like, it's weird. It's creepy. Use your judgment. So if you don't have a deep connection, you want to start less frequently and slowly increase the frequency. Does that make sense? Start slow and slowly increase it. You'll know you're moving in the right direction when it feels normal. You're like, okay, now we're having more regular interactions. How many of you would like to have a deeper relationship with Casey? Anyone raise your hand. You're like, Casey's rad. Okay. If you start showing up on her Zoom calls, you start talking to her, and you slowly build it up. Casey, do you think that these people would then build more deeper relationship with you?
Absolutely.
Okay. All you got to do is show up. It's really that easy. Okay. So that's frequency. Frequency. The second one, you guys remember what the second one is? The second one is proximity. Proximity. Proximity is how physically close you are. So that's why I would literally get on a plane to go travel. It's why we have in-person events we get because when you're really spending time with each other, that creates proximity, which helps deepen the relationship. However, you can use video to fake the brain. This is called the parasocial relationship. Can anyone admit to me that they have binged watched a TV show lately and willing to tell me which TV show it was? I saw Claire's hand first. Claire, what TV show? And then we'll go Amber Lee. Let's hear both of these. Claire, what TV show did you binge watch?
God, so many. The most recently, The Night Agent, and I don't recommend it. But Slow Horses on Apple, fantastic.
Okay, so we got Slow Horses. So she recommends. Let's pause there. Amber Lee, what did you binge watch?
Oh, I watched Black Dove.
Black Dove. Okay, we got Slow Horse and Black Dove. I've never seen either of those, but I'm going to ask both of you a question. By the time you were finished binge watching Black Dove, Amberly, and Claire, by the time you were finished binge watching Slow Horses, did you feel like you had any sort of connections to those characters? If so, tell me about it.
No.
No, because they're terrible characters?
No, I mean, well, Gary Oldham, is the main character, and I do love
Uh-huh.
the guy, and he was great. So I don't know.
I mean, did you feel like you knew him?
Kind of. Yeah.
Like, okay. Amberly, what about you?
Yeah, I think absolutely. You're spending time, you're paying attention, you're invested in the storyline. So, yeah, in essence, that's what keeps you watching the next episode and the next episode and the next episode. So, yes.
Okay. And I don't know those shows because I haven't watched them. I'm assuming they're more dramatic or intense shows, which
Mhm.
because of the nature of what they're talking about probably keeps you a little separated because it doesn't feel like real life. Has anyone ever binged watched like Friends or like a sitcom like that?
How about
Kim's nodding her head.
Yellowstone? John Dutton. Come on, where's my horse people?
Right. So
Half
so
Dutton.
and maybe you guys don't connect, but I'm trying to give you a way to actually feel like this
Mhm.
parasocial relationship. And maybe it's not TV. Maybe it's influencers you've seen on social media. Maybe it's people you don't even define as influencers, but you see them all the time and you feel like you know them, even though you haven't actually talked to them that much. Right. My wife, well, we have two little kids. When she was pregnant with my son 10 years ago, um, she was pregnant with our son. She decided that she was going to go back and rewatch some of the Friends episodes. She had a lot of like morning sickness. She just wasn't doing it. Was a rough pregnancy at the beginning. And she just started binge watching old Friends episodes. I wasn't even in the same room with her. I was literally in the other room working. She was in the other room watching Friends. But I heard their voices enough hours back to back to back that I started to feel like I was friends with the characters on Friends. I was literally wondering what was happening with Joey and Monica. And does that make sense? That's the parasocial relationship. And I know I'm spending a lot of time on this, but it's so important because as agents, we can do the same thing with our buyers and sellers. We can create this parasocial relationship, whether we're creating video content, sending video text messages, right? These things are free to zero cost or little cost, and you can literally create this relationship. That's so you can fake proximity. Does that make sense? So it's increasing frequency, it's increasing proximity. What's the third one? Third one we were on is duration. Duration is just the amount of time you're with them, the raw amount of time. Casey, you ever heard the expression how kids spell love?
Mm.
Kids spell love Time. Time, right? Those of you with kids, raise your hand. Do you agree kids spell love time? You just hang out with kids like that's it. And adults, I got news for you. We're just like little kids. We just have more baggage and programming running on top of it, but we are the exact same thing. You spend time with someone, you're going to develop a deeper relationship. Why do you think golf is one of the biggest networking activities out there? It's not because it's fun. I'm not a golfer. Anyway, sorry if you love golf. It's not because people like it's because it's just 4 hours where you're stuck out there. There's nowhere you could go. It's just you. It's just the time. Okay. I used to take clients to sporting events, right? When you have parties, like anything that can expend the raw amount of time, that's going to help that bonding. Casey, think about in the context of the in-person retreats you're doing, right? 3 days together in a space. It's just that time. Even if you didn't talk about anything, just hanging out together in a house for 3 days is going to be bonding based on sheer duration. Make sense? Okay. So last one, intensity. Intensity. And this is where we'll come back to, I just referenced, if you guys don't know, Casey's doing these really cool, retreats at her house and she's getting people in and they're not light and fluffy. They're not talking about the weather. There's an intensity because they're going deep into what really truly matters in someone's heart and their soul and what matters to them. And when you talk to your clients or people you want to develop relationships with, when you go deeper in the nature of what you're talking about, the things that truly matter to them, that is what deepens the relationship and creates a true relationship. So when you do experiential things, I just talked about sporting events, things like that. We used to like take clients out to like ski trips. We would go rent a cabin out in Salt Lake City and a bunch of agents would fly in and a bunch of people from the banks would fly in and we'd hang out for a weekend. But that experiential nature makes it it's a deeper bond than if you're just like, you go to a happy hour and talk about like, oh, today was hard. Was it hard? Yeah, it was hard. Yeah, it's raining outside. It's cold, huh? Does that make sense? Okay, so I'm going to throw this out here. I like to use, before we wrap this up, the example of a restaurant, because I find a lot of people have worked in restaurants or eaten in restaurants or seen restaurants on TV. People are pretty familiar with restaurants, right? You guys know what restaurants are? Okay, so raise your hand. Remember, have you ever worked in a restaurant? Okay, a lot of you guys. Did you notice a lot of people that ended up dating or like hooking up or weird things happening in restaurants? You're like, what is going on? Think about the context of what I just taught you. Okay. We've got intensity because in a restaurant, it's not life or death, but sometimes it feels like that. I don't know why, right? But it's like people they want their food, they got it now. And proximity, you're in a pretty close quarters. Restaurants aren't giant. You got all these little spaces. You're always together. Duration, they're long shifts, 8 to 10 to 12 hours, right? And frequency, you tend to see the same people on your same shifts over and over again. So Claire just said, my son and his waiter friends called the hostess stand the wife stand. Okay. But this is why when you look at it from this context, it's easy to see. So if you now put this back into the context of real estate to pull this all together, if you have someone in your life that has sent you a referral or sent you multiple referrals, or there's someone who's a builder, or there's someone who could send you more than one deal, do you see how you could adjust these factors to start to deepen that relationship, see them more often, get more physical proximity, start to have more intense, the intensity of your experiences with them and the duration amount of time you spent with them. It's just a formula. You can ratchet it up, ratchet it down. Is that helpful?
It's super helpful. And one of the things that, as you were saying all of that, if you don't like people, real estate is the wrong business to be in because everything about real estate is spending time with people and relational, that connection, that building, that being there for people. And and caring. And then the other thing is that I love that you said is about being intentional in where you're investing and who you're investing in. So clients that have been, sources of great referrals or that have, are connected to other, networks. It's the groups that you put yourself in, right? I was thinking about that Sunday. I was at the AT&T Pro-Am. I'm not a golf fan, however, I have friends that were there, and we're in a box, and it was for all these CIOs of different companies that AT&T had brought them in, and all these couples, and I'm there with my friends because obviously I'm single now, and so my girlfriend, like out of nowhere, we're sitting next to the wife of the CIO for the Dallas Cowboys, who's 48 years old, and she goes, "So, by the way, Casey's single. She is looking for someone. She doesn't need anyone to support her. She's completely financially independent, somebody between 50 and 58, and she doesn't want to be raising someone else's children." Now, we had not talked about this at all. I mean, she's my friend, so we've talked about this, but I was like, she goes, "This is what you have to do. You have to put it out there in groups of people that know people that have influence." And I was like, "Okay, great. Well, thanks for the heads up." And anyhow, it's now we're back on the dating example and not the real estate example, but it goes
that
to
was
the
highly
networks that was highly strategic. We were close proximity. We had been sitting watching, whatever. We were developing a relationship, and then my friend Jennifer, she's very assertive. So she went right in for the intensity of the ask where I wasn't even on that page yet. So I think it was a surprise to everyone. But to your point, the formula in lots of different ways.
But that's it. And it's funny, I just put that slide on the screen because that's always how I wrap this up. It's the two things: be strategic, be intentional. Write that down if you're taking notes. Whatever you're going to do with this, you could do it by accident, but that's the beauty of it. Once now you're aware of it, be strategic, be intentional. It's not about manipulating people. It's not, because you're like, well, but can't I like, yeah, you could, but if your intentions are in line, this is why I call it friend working. I would literally look at everyone and I would call them my friend and I would go to develop friendships. They weren't my clients, but I still call my clients my friends. And I know some people have argued with me and been like, well, but they aren't your friends, and friend means something different, and you should be careful throwing that word around. I'm like, no, they are my friends. I'm developing a relationship. I care about their interests and I'm going to advocate as an agent for them. But I really do look that I'm developing a friend relationship. This is part of that's how I view the world. This makes it a lot more fun doing this business.
Yeah. And I think I remember the beginning of my real estate career, and this may be true depending on people's personality or behavioral styles on the call. I was like 100% transactional. I did a ton of open houses. I'm like, if you want to buy or sell and you want to buy or sell something right now, I'm the person to help you. And I worked with a coach at that time that was like, "Yeah, you need to be a little more relational, like actually care about people." I'm like, "I don't care. All I care is if they're ready to do a deal. Like, I got to keep a roof over my head and food in my mouth. Like, are you ready to transact?" And so it was a journey learning how to be relational and develop relationships and invest in people over time, and trust that the consistency of doing that consistently over a period of time is what develops and grows business.
I mean, let's address that before we move on. If you are on this call and you are relational, no, sorry, you are transactional like Casey, there's nothing wrong with it. It's not inherently good or bad. You can run a real estate business successfully being very transactional. The challenge becomes you're always, remember, lead generation, lead conversion, servicing those clients. If you are transactional, you are always feeding the top end of the lead generation funnel. You need a continuous new source of new people that are ready to be transactional with you. And the cost of that is typically much higher than building a business relationally. That's the difference. If you're looking at your business and trying to figure out how do I make 2025 an amazing year, it's not about how much money you gross. Your gross income doesn't matter. Like you guys know GCI, people call it ECI, your ego commission income. It's about how much you take home at the end. It's your net. And if you're looking to have a higher net income, doing business relationally is a lot more sustainable. For most people, it's more fun, but it's also, even if you're transactional, it makes more logical sense bottom line, because it's like you don't have to keep priming the pump and putting new people in the top. It can be a yes and, but it's definitely worth analyzing how you do your business.
I love that. And I think there's a space for everybody, right? So and particularly in our industry, I find that people will look at people that are creating the kind of business they want or the success that they have, and then the next thing is, well, am I like that person? Well, but I'm not like that person, so I can't do what they're doing. And what I love about what you're sharing is that it doesn't matter who you are or what you're like or what you're drawn to, is that there's a formula for you to be able to use successfully, that
Yep.
it costs you the one thing called time, that's for for the most part, $0 unless you want it to be a financial investment.
So let's change. Does anyone have questions of this? Otherwise, we're going to change gears because I want to use time as this way to pivot into leverage. Anyone got questions on friend working, things we've covered so far? That was really a high level. We can go a lot more in depth, but like I want to give you just guys a few ideas. You can go deeper if you want later. So, Casey, you just said time. I believe time is the most valuable resource that we have. I'm seeing heads nodding, right? Time is the most valuable resource we have. So I got obsessed with this idea of leverage in my 20s, where I wanted to do more with less, make more money in less time, sell more homes with less effort. Does that make sense? How many of you like that idea? You're like, I'm already in leverage, I train, or you got, okay, cool. So I heard someone say this recently, that if you really want to create a great business in any industry, but especially in real estate, it's not about what's on your to-do list. It's probably more important to look at what's on your stop doing list, right? I could stop this conversation on productivity hacking and leverage right now by just giving you that one simple concept. It's not your to-do list. It's probably for most of you what it should go onto your stop doing list. And some of you are already nodding your head like I know exactly what he's talking about. But in case you want a framework, I'm going to give you a framework for how to look at what should go on the stop doing list, how to look at what's important, what's not important. So I had this 4-word phrase on my calendar, Casey, for probably about 5 years as a recurring task at 5 a.m. in the morning, because nothing was ever on my calendar 5 in the morning. It was just hanging out there as a reminder when I looked at my calendar as a filter to apply to my day, right? Everything I was doing, because I found myself being really busy all the time. And so someone gave me these 4 things. I'm going to tell you what they are. But how many of you feel like, man, I'm just busy? I'm busy. Like raise your hand. Does anyone feel like I wish there was more hours in the day? 3 of you. How many of you are too busy to raise your hand, no matter what I say? You're like, I don't have time to raise my hand. Okay. If you ever catch yourself now or in the future feeling like I wish there was more hours in the day, that is a sign, that is a red flag that you need to employ some leverage. Doesn't mean you're doing anything wrong. It just means that if you either want to get some time back or continue growing or whatever it is, if you ever feel like I wish there was more hours in the day, we need to employ leverage. Here's the 4 factors that you want to apply to your day. Number 1, we're going to eliminate. So we're going to look through everything you're doing. We're going to eliminate things that don't actually need to be done. If you just pause without even doing much reflection, more than 30 seconds, and think about, is there anything you've done in the last week as an agent that probably you didn't need to do it, or if you did it, it actually didn't do any good, didn't matter? Okay. We're going to eliminate those things. Number 2, we're going to start to simplify the things that are left. Some of these things that you're doing on a regular basis, you take a listing, you have things you do, you get a new buyer, you do certain things, right? It goes under contract, whatever it is, we're going to try to simplify those processes. And sometimes it helps to have someone else, an external person, like Casey's got Selena, who's our operation systems guru. I guarantee Selena is amazing at eliminating things that don't need to be done and simplifying things that are left. Right, Selena?
I try.
She tries. Okay. After we simplify, we're going to automate those pieces. Just on a call with Selena and Casey and some leaders the other night, talking about this new thing that Casey's doing. And sure enough, Selena's like, yeah, we're going to automate that part of it, which haven't done it yet. That's okay. But she has this flow. And maybe she was taught this format, or maybe she has a different format. But like every entrepreneur runs some version of this. Eliminate the things you don't need to do, simplify. Then we're going to automate. You guys know what the 4th one is?
Outsource.
Yeah. So I was taught it as delegate, and I changed it to be empower. Outsource, delegate, empower. The reason I like the word empower is because empower is very different than delegation. If you delegate to someone and you're like me, who's a micromanager, I tend then just to delegate and then micromanage the process, and I'm basically still doing it anyway. But if I think about it as empowering the person that I'm going to give this thing to not only take ownership and to refine it and make it better, and I've built some trust with them, then now I'm not micromanaging. They're actually probably going to do it better than I am because I've empowered them to own this process. Does that make sense? Okay, eliminate, simplify, automate, empower. A couple ways to use these things. And then I'll give you a couple more little leverage things, and we'll give a few really specific productivity hacks. So let's assume that the time you have to spend in the day is like money in a bank account. Has anyone ever thought about the time you have that way? Like you got a bank account with a certain amount of seconds or minutes in it, and you only have a certain amount of like checks you can cash out of this because the money's going to run out. Some of you right now, if you look at your calendars or you look at the way you're spending your day, you are overdrafting your time bank account. things are overlapping. You're doing 6 things at once. I'm seeing a few heads nodding. Some of you are like, nope, I never do that. Okay, it's cool. It might not be all of you, but a lot of us do as agents. It's very common to the way we end up in our days. So a really powerful tool you can do. Has anyone ever done something called a time study? Time study. A few of you have. It is potentially painful, maybe neutral at best, but like you don't really enjoy it. It takes a lot of really, really scientific tools to do a time study. You need a blank notebook or a piece of paper. You can use piece technology if you want, but like literally you just need a piece of paper, and you need a timer, some sort of reminder device. I would recommend using your cell phone because most of you have not gone more than 6 minutes without touching your cell phone, which is okay. We'll work on that one later. But like you always get your cell phone with you and set a timer to go off every 30 minutes or every hour, depending on how ADD you are. Those of you who are ADD, don't raise your hand for this. Just blink your eyes 3 times. Okay. If you are ADD, use the 30-minute timer. If you're not, you can set a 1-hour timer and just write down when the timer goes off what you've done for the last hour and do it for a day. If I challenge you to do that for a day, what did I do for the last hour? And then if you can really do, like you really want to take on the time study, 3 days. Within 3 days, you will see all of the patterns that you pretty much have. You don't even need to do it for a week. But if you do this, I always throw this offer out there and almost no one takes me up on it. If you send me a copy of what you write down, I will help you categorize them into things that you should be doing, things that we could eliminate, things that you could delegate to someone else, things that could only be done by you, right? There's all different categories and filters you could do this. But for most people, you don't even have to get that fancy. Just writing it down, you look at it, and you're like, oh my gosh, I had no idea that's where I was spending my time, right? Then you start to apply those filters of eliminate, simplify, automate, and power. And very quickly, you can start to shape the way and get some back. And you create a business by design instead of a business by default. Does that make sense? Okay. Any questions on that? Otherwise, I want to give you one more high-level leverage concept.
Jesse,
Questions on this?
do you do it just from like 8 to 5, or do you do it through the evening when you do your time?
I mean, what part of your life you want to look at? It's either. If you are an agent who works 8 to 5 and then you don't do work in the evening, sure, just do it 8 to 5. But I think most agents on this call probably do stuff at 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 o'clock, 6 a.m. So it depends how complete you want to be when you're analyzing your life, right? I got really, really obsessed with my time when I had kids. I was pretty bad at spending my time prior to having kids. I would do 6 things at once. I'd do a bunch of projects. I'd say yes to everything, right? Then I had my son. He's 9 years old now, and I still was pretty bad with my time. And I was busy and I was stressed because now not only like I don't know about you, and this is not a good or bad. You need kids. You don't need kids. This was just for me. It was something in my life that shifted that made money matter more. Because if I wasn't making money, then I had to go later and do something else to make money. And that was taking time away from what I really wanted to do, which was be with my family. Which Casey told you at the beginning, that's where my priority is. For this phase of my life, my priority is my kids and my wife and being there. And like, that's where we spend our time. So for you, it might be something else. But when you get really obsessed with this, I had a guy who was one of my friends and one of my mentors I was like, dude, I'm stressed all the time. I just feel like I'm busy. Like I feel like I'm failing as a dad. I'm failing as an agent. Like I was making money, but it didn't matter. It didn't feel right. Has anyone ever been there? Like you just have that? And so I said, will you just help me do an audit of my life? He's like, I didn't even do a time study. He just looked at my calendar. I did a screen share and he just started laughing. And he was like, you're going bankrupt with your time. You're overspending your time. You can't live like that. And so I started reeling it in and saying no to certain things and eliminating things and figuring out what I needed to do. But the things that were left, right? I had this very simple concept of leverage that someone taught me in my 20s. And I don't remember who taught me this because I've looked it up. I can't figure out who to give credit to. So at this point, I'm taking credit for this, right? You teach it once, you give credit the second time, you don't, the third time, it's your own concept. You ever hear that, right? So as instructor Casey, I'm now taking credit for the 3 ways to leverage. You guys ready for this?
Go for
Three
it.
ways, 3 ways to leverage. Okay. STP. Systems, technology, people. I'm a product of the 90s. There's a band called Stone Temple Pilots. That's why STP sticks in my mind. But if you're not old enough to remember them, or if you're too old and you listen to music in the 90s, I don't know. Anyway, Stone Temple Pilots, it's STP. You can remember systems, technology, people, right? I'm going to break down what I mean by the 3 of these. You might know them by different concepts, but these are the 3 things, right? And I don't have it on this slide, but if you want to write down below it, there's something that is the multiplier that makes all of these go faster, that makes your leverage happen better. Does anyone know what the multiplier is? It's money. Money is the multiplier. Money allows you to create better systems, get better technology, hire better people. You can do it with or without money. But money, this is why when we talk about as a coach in your business, like how do you want to grow your business? Do we have money? Do we not? Do we have cash flow? Do we need it? So we're going to talk about having zero money, but if you have money, you can just make this stuff go faster. Systems. Systems are a repeated way to do something. Can I pick a random one of you? I'm just going to pick you because I'm in the middle of my screen. Nikki, do you work with buyers or list sellers? Do you work with either one or both?
I work with both.
Cool. When you take a listing, assuming you've been in real estate for more than a month, when you take a listing, do you do the same basic things every time?
Yep.
Like you put on a lockbox,
Mhm.
put a sign up,
Yep.
take pictures. Okay. How long have you been in real
Contract.
estate? How long have you been in real estate for?
7 years.
7 years. Perfect. I picked a good person for this. So when you take a new listing, do you freak out and start running in circles? You're like, I have no idea what to do. I have a listing. Ah! Or is it like, no, I kind of got this.
Yep. It's fine.
Okay. Do you have like a written checklist for what you do when you take a listing?
No, it's in my head.
Okay. She's like most agents, which is perfect. Thank you, Nikki. You don't need it doesn't need to be written down to be a system. She has a process, a duplicatable way of doing something. If over years you've developed it, right? Nikki, you got a system. Okay. Some of you have written checklists. Some of you thrive with written checklists because it makes you feel good to check the boxes. That's not saying right or wrong, but you need in your business systems. And if you're on this call and you're less than 2 years in the business, it's possible you may be missing systems in your business. It's possible. But those of you who've been here longer than 2 years, you might be needing some better systems, but you probably have systems or else you wouldn't have made it this far. Make sense? Okay, the second one, technology. And these are ways to leverage, right? You get why systems is a leverage because if she had to run around like crazy person every time she got a listing, it would take hours. She has a system. It's very easy. Technology. All sorts of ways technology can help us leverage, right? We have 36 people on here live on Zoom. If this was a face-to-face meeting, we would have spent hours flying to meet each other. We are able to click a button on Zoom. Technology allows us to have a face-to-face meeting. This is leverage. You have a CRM, which you keep your clients in, hopefully, or a spreadsheet or a notebook. Some sort of list you have your clients in. Please tell me yes, you guys have some sort of list for your clients, okay? That is technology as leverage, reminding you what to do. It's your external brain. I could do a whole training on that, but that's not for today because most agents I find, if we have all these three, because the last one is people, leverage through people, where do you think most agents are lacking in leverage? Type it in the chat box or say it out loud. Do they need more systems? Do they need technology? I heard someone say it again.
People.
People, says Kim. Anyone else agree? Sherry says people. Anyone else? You guys agree? People? Yeah. People, guys. 95% of the agents out there are lacking leverage through people. And the way I can prove this to you, if some of you are thinking, no, I need systems. Again, if you're a newer agent, you might need systems or technology. But for most of you, if I gave you one new system to generate more leads or a new piece of technology to go make something better, it's not going to make your life any easier in the moment. It's probably going to make you more stressed because it's just something else you're not doing. And another thing you don't have time to fully execute on. Does that make sense? It's people. So when we get to the people category, I got to break down categories here for you because some of you immediately tense up when I say people. You're like, I don't have the money to hire someone. I don't want to hire someone. It's not what I'm telling you. Okay. All sorts of ways to leverage through people. You can do it with people you don't pay, like your lender, your title officer, your escrow officer. Okay. You can leverage through them. Maybe you have a little bit of money, not zero, but a little bit. You can do it with part-time help. You could do it with overseas VAs versus stateside. You could do project-based hiring. You have a certain thing you want to get done. Instead of going out and spending X amount on a salary, you go pay someone a couple $100s. You go to upwork.com, which is a freelancer site, right? You can see all these people who have done that sort of project, organizing a database, getting something set up, whatever it is. And you could just outsource to people that single project. Does that make sense? Those of you with more money, you could hire a part-time person or a full-time person, right? You could partner with them if you don't have any money. You're like, I want to partner. I'm a bigger fan of hiring versus partnering. I think if you're a business owner and you're an entrepreneur, you're probably that for a reason. And you're going to want to scale and grow as that. We could spend the last 15 minutes here talking about the ways that you could structure this. But is this helpful looking at your life and looking at your business? How many of you immediately have realized you're like, I'm lacking leverage through people? That would probably help. Okay. Team leaders here. If we have any team leaders or those of you that like to grow teams, you are leveraging through people if you have buyer's agents or listing agents. Okay. If you're a listing agent or a buyer's agent on a team, you can still leverage through people. You don't have to go start your own team because you might have someone that writes your offers for you, or you have your transaction coordinator, or you have your runner. Like, everyone, no matter where it is, I don't think it's good or bad. Like, I've run teams and I've been on teams. I don't think it's a good or bad thing. I think it depends on your role of how you want to see your life look like, but everyone can benefit from people and benefit through leverage. Questions on any of this? Have I stunned you all into shocked silence? Or are you like looking at your life critically and you're like, Because I got more I can tell you in case you got questions. So if you have questions, I got more. Ready? I'll throw out something. I throw something here. How many of you, when the NAR changes came out last year and you suddenly had to start using buyer agency agreements, how many of you that was new for you, using buyer agency agreements? A couple of you, okay. How many people have been using buyer agency agreements for years? You're like, I've already been doing it. More of you. Interesting, okay. And then some people not on camera, that's okay. So for those of you that had to start using buyer agency agreements, let's talk about that group first. Did you notice that those of you that created a system, a repeated way to explain how you work and learn about your client, it then became easier. And now it's like, okay, I can get a buyer agency agreement signed because I got a system for it. Okay. Those of you who are on this call that are still feeling uncomfortable, because I was on a mastermind last week, blew my mind. I had some experienced agents who are still feeling uncomfortable getting buyer agency agreements signed. It's like, holy smokes, how is that possible? Because they didn't develop a system yet or learn a system. You don't have to make the system. You can get systems given to you. You can just run it as is or use it or tweak it and make it your own. But if you feel uncomfortable with any area of your business, look first to see, do you need a system or technology? And otherwise it might be people leverage. Casey, where should we go with this? We got 12 minutes. I got plenty more I can do, but I don't know if you should have a lot of interaction on these calls, if I should call people out, if I should, like, what do you want me to do?
I would love to grab some ahas from people. I think we've had like a lot of amazing content and information, and to make sure that people are walking away with something that they can integrate or a new awareness of something that's going to change business, change life on the other side. Would love to hear from some people just of what's landed or any ahas.
Raise your hands or unmute yourself. Who's got an aha? Something they took away from today.
I'll go.
All right, we got Katie and then Ted, Lisa, and then Shanice. Those are the hands I saw. Go ahead, Katie. Coach Katie.
I'm driving, so I'm not going to look at the camera, but you can see me, I think. I got the ahas about the people because I've done the hour study, which, by the way, I need to do my time study again. So thank you for the reminder. And I'm now thinking about who I need to help me get more organized and be more focused on where I shine the brightest. So thank you for those two reminders.
I love it, Coach Katie. Love it. Ted, what about for you?
Loved everything about it. I've been doing this 55 years. I just simply love it. And I love EXP. I think the one that jumped out at me, I mean, they all jumped out at me, but the one about the people with the leverage, I mean, it's, right now, Lisa and I are just listed a house that was our clients when they left this area to go to El Dorado Hills in Sacramento 24 years ago. And so it's such a joy for me. I mean, like you said, it's communicating and being with, they're our friends. I mean, and then, here after 4 years, I dragged Lisa along and they like her better than me, which is the whole plan because she is so amazing. So number one for me was the people, and then that's what she says, just call, because she's, I can't believe people that's known you for 30, 40 years and they still love you and blah, blah, blah. So I think that was a big one for me. That was the aha, yes.
I love that, Ted. Love it, love it, love it. We got a couple people in the chat box. I'll read those in a second. If you want to, guys, anyone else wants to type in there your takeaways. Shanice, you had one, I think, though.
So yes, Ted kind of hit the nail on the head, the leveraging, thinking outside the box. Initially, I just always think you have to have a lot of money to leverage yourself, but really utilizing what you already have is amazing. And to roll it all in, we talk about the time and kids and things like that. And so like, I just thought of an idea as like, well, my daughter likes to edit all the time, so why don't I just leverage my social media to her? She's probably better at it than I am anyway, so.
I love that. I absolutely love that. I want to show you something, Shanice, real quick, and I'm going to read these out of the chat box. We got other takeaways. This site I referenced, in case you had never played on it, it's called Upwork, upwork.com. I just typed in here CRM organization. Maybe it's something people need, maybe people don't. I can type in social media in a minute. And these are the people that pop up in just this, like this guy. We got Jatinder, marketing automation, HubSpot CRM, go high level expert, Facebook ads, $18 an hour. You can look at his reviews. You can look there. This guy, 95 bucks an hour. Whew, he's got to be pretty darn good. He's based in the US. But then we've got Mohan in India, 15 bucks an hour, online marketing specialist, CRM automation. Like you got all these different people of all these different price ranges, and you can hire them by the hour, by the job, right? We could look up social media. I'm not recommending any specific person, just saying there's options out there. If you got a daughter that heck keep the money in the family, probably better at social media than you're probably right. Right? That's good. Let her take over social media. All right. Thank you, Shanice. Sherry says, love friend working in the time study. I love it. Melody says, don't assume if you're not like the person that you can't do what they're doing. All you need is a formula. 100%. Right? This is Kim Renshaw made a comment earlier. Sounds like NLP. A lot of this is borrowed and taken and adapted from NLP or overlapping with neuro linguistic programming. But you don't need to go study NLP in depth. It's just simple concepts. You can connect with anyone. You really can. You just have to remember those 4 factors to adjust. Any other takeaways?
I'll jump
I would
on.
take away on, go ahead. Go, Amberly.
Hey guys, Amberly out of Orange County. Thank you, Jesse, for jumping on with us today. Just wanted to share, Jeff and I just want to talk about transactional versus relational. We turned off of our Zillow marketing a couple of years ago, and we really focused on our relationship business with our database, and that is what helped us icon like the last couple of years. So that was a switch that we did that really helped us grow our business, just staying focused with those relationships. There's a lot of things that we've been doing well, but I keep coming back to the stop doing list, and Casey knows a little bit about that too. And Bubbles, she's sitting next to me. But yeah, just focusing on just stop doing. But more than the stop doing, I've been trying to be intentional about like what are the stories I'm telling myself and why I'm not doing it. So I think that is something else to take into consideration too when you're going over those 4 areas: eliminate, simplify, automate, and empower. Is that this year my goal is to really shift that too, because I think a lot of us know what we should be doing, but it's just the part of just taking action and actually implementing it in our business. So I just want to say thank you again for just continuing to share these wonderful nuggets for us and helping us stay focused on what matters in our business.
Yeah. You're welcome, Amberly. And Casey does an amazing job with that. Was there someone else that had another takeaway? I think they had 2. Otherwise, we'll pull it all together here, Casey, at the end. All right, Casey, did you have something you were gonna add?
Yeah, no, I was just going to share well, I love what Amberly just said. What's the story you're telling yourself about why you're not doing it? Because there's the reasons, excuses, justifications. And so it takes, a leader of self to take 100% responsibility where it's not about anything external. It's 100%, taking that ownership. So it's not surprising that you've seen that jump in growth in your business as a result of doing that. And I think that's a great leadership lesson for everybody on the call. Like it's never anything outside of us. It is always things that are inside. And when we realize that, then we can actually change things. So I love that. And then the other thing that I was going to say from the time study is Rick and I actually did that for a week, and we did it from when we woke up to when we went to bed. And it was one of the most, it took us a long time to do it because it just sounded miserable. And then at some point it was like, okay, well, let's do it. Let's do it together. And it was so revealing about how much time got wasted and how much longer time was being spent on things that didn't need that much time just because it would get dragged out because there was no accountability for it. So that half-hour timer going off every half hour was like, it was a really powerful, really, really powerful to see. And we did it on a Monday through Friday. So for anybody that is wanting to be very courageous and confrontive and come to what's actually true versus what you perceive to be true, is that time study is an incredible thing to do.
And it doesn't mean you can't hang out and relax and not do anything. It actually makes
doesn't.
you more grateful and more present when you do, because your conscience is saying like, this is my time, I'm going to chill. and that you're not just doing it mindlessly. I actually think it's because I had a lot of resistance against the time study because I was like, but I want to be able to relax, but it's not about that. It's about when you consciously like, I have a time from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. every night that my phone goes in a drawer where I get to be present with my kids. I literally take my cell phone, stick it in the drawer, and I still sell houses by the way. Like this is like with clients, I still put like that's just I get it done before and after, and like there's ways to do this when you're conscious and present with your time.
Love it.
Okay.
Well, as we wrap everything up, Jesse, I want to say thank you so much for taking your time with us this morning. Incredible insights and value. So many different things to take away. And I mean, the bottom line is if we're in a space where we're learning based, we're always asking the question, where can I learn? Where can I grow? Where can I change? And to be better, right? And continuing to be better, regardless of how long we've been in the game or how good we already are at what we do. It's that constant, like looking for ways to improve and to level up and to skill up. And when we do that, we improve our quality of life and we expand the impact that we're able to make with our clients and with our communities and friends and family and everyone. So I really appreciate your investment in everyone here. This recording will be on empirebuilders.pro under the resources tab, Free Friday Coaching Call. All of the recordings are housed there, so you can look for that later today if you want to go back and grab it. And then again, we do this call the first and third Fridays of the month. And so our next one, the next one of these will be interview with Tracy War, who is in the top percentages of agents in the Napa Valley. And she's got over 20 years of experience as well. She works in luxury and she is incredible. So she'll be our next guest on our next Free Friday coaching call. In the meantime, everyone make it a great day. Thank you for being here. Selena.
Real quick, if anybody wants to join Systems with Selena today, 11 o'clock, same Zoom. I'm teaching automation in Zapier. So for anybody who wants to learn how to create an automation and simplify some things, that is the subject of today's call.
Thank you. I felt like we were halfway through the month and I realized we're only the first Friday. So thank you for bringing that up. All right. Make it a great day, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye.